Hey everybody, I'm Creed and welcome to a review of all the art I've done in 2017. So my biggest project of the year was my 100th villain from my first 100 villain series. And instead of just drawing Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls, I wanted to draw all of his monster henchmen from the end of the series. So it was kind of a big project, and I usually do probably one of these big projects a year. I regret it every year, but I love the art at the end, so it's sort of 50-50. These projects kind of sap my will to draw sometimes, especially around the middle. They always turn out to be a better project than even what I pictured, so I am really happy with the result. So I started off drawing his henchmen, and the first one is 8-Ball. And 8-Ball's just some kind of a ghoul, and he has 8 balls for eyes. And the next one I did was Pacifier. And he's sort of an interdimensional baby monster who turned out pretty cool. And then we have Pyronica, who is really weird looking and quite dangerous in the cartoon. And I really like how this came out. It came out really nice. And the next guy is Hectorgon. I really like him. He has a simple design, but it's really cool. And the next henchman is Kryptos, who's just we're getting kind of abstract here with the monsters, and they get more abstract as we go. All these henchmen are from the last few episodes of the series, and you have to see Gravity Falls. The reason I invested this amount of time into drawing all these separate pieces for one piece is just because of how awesome Gravity Falls is, and I didn't want to end with just a simple drawing of Bill Cipher, because he's basically just a triangle with a couple of details. And the design of all these henchmen is so cool that I really wanted to use them in the background of the picture. So the next guy is Keyhole, who seems very happy to have a hole in his head. And then we have Xanthar, who looks like a giant angry loaf of bread who just came from a birthday party. And then we have Teeth. I don't know where the name comes from, but yeah, it kind of does fit, doesn't it? Now this guy doesn't have a name. He's just a lava lamp. So I just call him Lava Lamp Guy. He's the only henchman of the main group that doesn't have a name. But I really like this piece because I got a chance to try some different things with coloring. I used some really different techniques from what I usually do, and I really like how this came out. It really does look like a lava lamp, I think. And then the last one of his henchmen is Amorphous Shape, and that's about as abstract as you can get. So those are all of his monsters. And there's the final piece with Bill and his monsters in the background. And I even squeezed in Rick and Morty coming out of a portal. So that's the 100th villain in my series. It's going to get its own video, and there's still actually a few before this that I haven't posted videos for. And I'm still doing more with that 100 villain series, and I'm hoping this year I really get a chance to start my second 100 villains. Cartoon villains are exactly what I want to be drawing, so I'm looking forward to getting back to it. Now the next piece I did, it's a total re-ink, so I do count it as a new piece of art. It's basically digital inks of a piece that I did quite a while ago with just a Sharpie on a piece of paper. And it's the logo for DrakPak, but monsterized. So if DrakPak, the 80s cartoon, and DrakPak's been one of my focuses this year. DrakPak and the Jetsons are sort of the projects I'm mainly working on right now. So I decided to digitally ink this to get a really good, clean copy of it. And I think it came out really awesome. This is one of the few times where I do my own version, because this is the monsterized version. This is Creed's DrakPak. Now something else I was doing this year is I was starting over at the start of my 100 villains, and I come up with this format for sharing on social media. that has all the information and the 100 villains, the 100 cartoon villains logo, and my information. So it's all on the same piece of art. Instead of just posting art and the text with it would say what it is and who I am, I figure I'd make this like a capsule that I can just release, and it has all the information on it. And I really like this format. The reason I count these as art for this year is because I totally re-inked all of these. And actually number 7, I only have 8 done so far, because it's sort of hard to go back and basically you're redoing something you already did, and that's just, for me, that's kind of mentally tough, but it's work that's well worth doing once I get it done. So I eventually hope to have 100 of these all redone, and there will be a few that I will redraw. And number 7 in the list here, I redrew Simon Bar Sinister sort of to fit the series better. I really liked the one I did, but it was sort of off at the time. See, it was only the 7th one I did in my 100 cartoon villains, and I wasn't sure the way I was going to go with the series. The first few are kind of a little bit more monstrous or gory, a little bit, and I sort of evened that out over time and got away from that and more into exact likeness. And so actually someday I would like to do a really monsterized version of a lot of these guys. But as I was going through, when I got to villain number 7, Simon Bar Sinister, and the original has him at a console, and what I've actually, the series has developed into doing full body illustrations. And since I really want to do all the underdog characters and do a group shot, I already needed a full body Simon Bar, so I decided to redraw him. So this is the new version of Simon Bar, and actually that's not the only underdog piece I've done this year. See, there's the old Simon Bar Sinister, and he really is more sinister. I made him a little more monstrous, gave him some more teeth, and I really like that piece. But I think the new one really fits better with this series of 100 villains. And as you can see here, I also had the chance to draw his flunky, Cad Lackey, and I think he came out awesome. So that's just one less underdog character I have to get drawn. As I've done these full body illustrations, I've sort of started collecting cast members of different shows to do group shots. And that's, like I said, that's what this is for. I want to do a big underdog piece with all the characters in it. So that's sort of an ongoing thing, and I have a lot of these little ongoing side projects, I guess. So that's my redo of Simon Bar, and Cad Lackey is an extra character, but he'll be in the whole group shot. And I've already previously done Riff Raff, so that's sort of a slowly progressing series I'm working on. Now the next piece is actually inspired by one I did last year, which was Dollar from Richie Rich, and that came out awesome. That's one of my favorites actually that I've done. And then I decided, okay, I can't just have Dollar, so I need Richie. So there's Richie, and I will be doing more characters. I also have King Bean done, so I plan to draw more characters from that show too. Definitely, I love that show so much. It's one of the ones that I watched at lunchtime when I was a kid, so it's really close to my heart. And the next one I've drawn here is Dennis the Menace from the Dennis the Menace cartoon. And I'm a giant fan of Hank Ketchum's original work. I have a stack of all his one-panel books, and still amazing to this day. So I really love that cartoon. And so I've drawn Dennis, and then I've also drawn Ruff. So there's Ruff. And I think from the whole year, I think these are my most perfectly smooth inks. So I really love this one. And plus, Ruff rules. He really does. So I'll definitely be drawing more from this show too. I just have so many shows that I love. I don't really understand. I saw a post the other day in one of the art groups I'm in, and they were like, what should I draw? I'm really stuck on what to draw. And I'll get stuck on, am I gonna draw or am I not gonna draw? And that's a whole other issue. But I never have a problem thinking of something to draw. I have a problem narrowing it down, because there's just so many great shows and great characters that I want to draw. I haven't even scratched the surface. So there's good old Ruff. That's one of my best of the year, definitely. Next is my Jetsons cast series. And first of all, I wanted to draw Rosie. And I'm really impressed with how great my inks are on this too. The smoother I get my inks and the cleaner they look, the happier I am. And this piece came out amazingly perfect, as great as I would have expected. So there's Rosie, and then we have Astro. And as I've been drawing Astro, I've been thinking, I have a lot of pictures of cartoon dogs. I'm putting together an idea for a print or a poster, a shirt, I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be a collection of cartoon dogs, maybe at a Saturday morning at the dog park is kind of the idea I have. So I'm sort of focusing a little bit more. If I have a chance to draw another cartoon dog, I will. Like if I pick a show and I'm going to draw somebody, if there's a dog, very likely I'm going to get to that guy. So there should be something in the future with a lot of cool cartoon dogs in it. But that's just another one, Astro. Everybody has to love Astro. The Jetsons just rule. And then the next Jetsons character I did was Jane, his wife, who I think came out really good. Getting the shape was the most difficult part. I really wanted to have the same kind of look from the show. You can probably tell I really super focus on getting the likeness that you will instantly recognize, yes, that's the correct character from the show. And I definitely think this one works. I also did something a little different coloring wise with the lips, and I went with color instead of black as they were originally drawn. And the next one is his boy Elroy, and you can't have a dog without his boy. So there's Elroy. And now these pieces are standalone pieces. That's why I didn't want to draw Elroy small and then most of this picture would be background. But if he was going to be the same size to fit with the other characters, it would be. So I'll resize them all to match each other for that. But for a standalone piece, I really wanted to zoom in on him. And there's the man himself, George Jetson, the lead of the show, and one wacky dude. I'm a huge fan of the Jetsons, and I remember when I watched it in the 80s, I didn't know that some of the episodes were reruns and some were new. I just knew the Jetsons were a really great show. So there's George, and then there's his daughter Judy. And I don't usually do a certain kind of pose. I try to stay pretty neutral. But I think this pose works, and it's still relatively neutral, so I went with it. And I think she really matches the rest of the cast pretty good. I think my style fits this family really well. And I'm going to do more than the family. I'm going to do all the extended cast. Anybody who's basically a regular on the show, I want to draw for this group shot that I'm working on. And it's still in progress, but I do have one more. He was on 3 episodes, and it's George's grandfather, Montague. And he's a riot because he has more energy than the rest of the family put together. He wore Judy out in one episode. They just went somewhere, and she came back all collapsed, and he was like, come on, let's do more. So I really like that idea. And I'll be going deep into the Jetsons. I definitely be doing Spacely Sprockets, Cogswell Cogs, the janitor and his robot. There's a lot more characters I need to draw yet for this series. That's sort of an ongoing thing with me, is finishing up this Jetsons cast especially. And next I really changed gears to a 90s cartoon that I super love, Mighty Max. So this is Virgil from Mighty Max. And just don't call him a chicken, because he's a fowl. And he's reading a scroll, and there's a portal behind him. So I already have him and Norman both drawn, and I just have to draw Max to have the trio. And actually in my villains I have Skullmaster, but it's just a headshot, and so eventually I want to get a full body of Skullmaster too. It's just a fantastic show. I know I focus mostly on 80s stuff, but there are some 90s shows that are just amazing, and Mighty Max is definitely one of them. So I'm super happy with how Virgil came out. And I find randomly jumping around with these characters, I really find that variety in who I draw keeps my art going. So I've gone with something really obscure, and this is Fangface. And his show ran 32 episodes from 1978 to 1980. It was also included as part of the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Hour, which I'll be drawing a lot more stuff from. Next I decided to draw something from the 80s Super Friends show, and I decided to draw the Wonder Twins. So here's Jaina, who I think came out really awesome. I don't think I could probably draw a better Jaina than this one here. And then I drew Zan, who I think also came out excellent. And then you can't have the Wonder Twins without their monkey, Gleek. And here's Gleek. and I'm super happy with how he came out. And then what I did is I made a sort of just a mini group shot with all of them. And when I get more Super Friends, I'll do a Super Friends group. But this is just my Wonder Twins shot right here with Zan, Jaina, and Gleek. And I tried to draw them as close as I could to the show. And honestly, some of the parts of the show aren't drawn super awesomely. So I sort of had to fix some stuff, but I tried to make it look as close as I could. And that happens with a lot of old cartoons. We don't realize our memory is awesome, but if you see the show and you like freeze frame, some of the art's not as good as we remembered. And this was sort of the case here. So I did my best to get a likeness, and I think it really worked out cool. Now this is my extension of my redo of my villains. I wanted to do the same kind of format for heroes. Now that Mighty Hercules that I did first is just reused. I didn't have to re-ink him because he's relatively new, but it's from 2016, and the other three are complete re-inks that I did in 2017. So we have Norman from Mighty Max, Inspector Gadget, and Pac-Man. And this series isn't a super high priority for me, but I do hope to eventually add more to it. Then we have one of my favorite cartoon characters, LB from The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin. And I already have Tweeg drawn. I already have Queller, but I also have Ickley Bognosterklum from Mavo. And this year, I really want to draw the three main characters, Teddy, Grubby, and Gimmick. I'm just a giant fan of the show, and everybody brings up the toy, and that's fine. I wasn't big into a teddy bear toy, but that show is so full of imagination. I've rarely seen anything like it. It's amazing. So I plan to draw a lot more from that show. And this is just LB, and I love how smooth I got my inks on this. This was just excellent. I couldn't draw it any better. Then jumping around again, we go to the Pebbles and Bam Bam show from 71 to 72. And just such a memorable character. He had the worst luck of any cartoon character. Good old Schleprock. So I had to draw Schleprock. And I probably will draw the rest from the show, but I couldn't go too much longer without drawing Schleprock, so he's just one of my favorite guys. Then we travel into some really weird territory here. One of the strangest 80s cartoons was Rubik the Amazing Cube. This one's a little more geometric than I usually draw, and the lines are a little more uniform, but that is definitely him. That's Rubik for sure. And the show is weird, but it's not bad at all. It still entertains me. Now we're getting into Drak-Pack territory. And here's a vehicle I did, which is just the flying version of the Dragster from the Drak-Pack. And I do want to draw the other versions. I have those all planned, but this one came out really good. I like this a lot. And then I drew the three main guys from the Drak-Pack, and here's Howler. It just came out awesome. I love this. This is great. So I've already drawn the Monsterized version that I showed you a while ago. These are the show-specific versions. So there's Howler. And then there's Drac Jr., who just came out excellent. I'm also going to draw the different things that he turns into. So that's something to look forward to. If you're a big Drak-Pack fan, I'm going to end up drawing just about everything from the show. And I'm pretty close, actually. And then you can't forget Frankie. And Frankie's just awesome. He's just an integral part of the Drak-Pack, for sure. And I actually love to draw any version of Frankenstein. So this is just lots of fun for me. Next, I jumped around a lot to get to Inch High Private Eye. His show ran from 1973 to 74, and he actually, in this shot, reminds me a lot of Teeny Little Super Guy from Sesame Street, who I also may draw sometime. But Inch High Private Eye rocks, and I'm really glad with how he turned out. He came out excellent. And here's one of my absolute favorite pieces of the year that I've done. And it's Whizzer from the Monchhichis. Now, Monchhichis only ran one season, but Whizzer is cool as hell. And I really want to draw everybody else from this show. I already have Horg drawn, but I really want to do a full body Horg. So he's on my list. And so are the rest of the characters from this show. It's a show I really remember a lot from my childhood, so it means a lot to me. And how great this Whizzer came out really makes me happy. Now here's one I did. This was during a time when I wasn't making a lot of art, and this is an idea that I had that I used this is one of my 100 villains. Near the end, it's Scary Terry from Rick and Morty. I always had this idea of doing a movie poster. And of course, Scary Terry calls everyone in the world bitch. So his movie would be A Nightmare on Bitch Street, Bitch. Yeah, I think this poster came out exactly how I wanted it to. So I'm really happy with it. I actually have another idea for him that I'm hoping to get to also. So, and I could just sort of reuse the art and change it a little bit for this other idea. Now, I really hope they bring Scary Terry back in another episode of Rick and Morty. I'd love to see him again. He's great. I've been having a lot of issues getting art done. This year, I've made less than half of my goal of art. The stuff I made is good quality, but I was really hoping to make a lot more. And then when I was disappointed about that, and that I didn't even reach half my goal, I realized a lot of it was just the reasons behind it couldn't really be fixed, and they couldn't be foreseen when I set the goal. So I just have to be happy with the quality of the stuff that I made. So I've just sort of let it go that I didn't reach a numbered goal, and this year I haven't set a numbered goal. I just want to continue to make cool art. So this was a little bit of inspiration to keep my YouTube channel going and keep art being made. Is I started a lot of gaming. So one of my all-time favorite games is Slime Rancher, and I highly recommend it. I'm actually doing a big Let's Play series on my YouTube channel and mixing that in with my art. And that's another thing I started this year, is putting a lot of inspiration-based stuff, the things that inspire me to make art. I'm going to put a lot of that on my YouTube channel. And so far it's been gaming, but I'm hoping to put in like TV reviews and movie reviews. Anything cool that inspires me belongs on my channel now. And this is one of the first things I've gotten from that inspiration. I had the idea of, what if these super happy slimes in this game were actually monsters and we couldn't see it? So this is what they'd really look like. If we could put on like the glasses from They Live and see the real slime, I think they'd look like this and be super monstrous and gross. So I love how this came out, and this is just another series I'm going to start because there's lots of slimes in the game, and this is only the first one. So I'm glad that plan to keep my art going really worked out. Gaming really inspires me, and especially the games I play. For example, the game Little Nightmares is a huge inspiration to me right now, and I really want to draw some of the really gruesome, crazy characters from that game. And then I want to show you a couple of unfinished pieces that I just did pencils for, and eventually I will get them inked and finished. But this is actually from the middle of the year. I drew Pith Possum, super dynamic Possum of Tomorrow, and his sidekick Obadiah. And they are from a segment on the Schnookums and Meat Funny Cartoon Show, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, and there really should have been way more of them. These are actually the second and third characters I've drawn from that show, because one of my last cartoon villains in the series is Super Water Buffalo, a Pith Possum villain, who's just great. And if you haven't seen the show, I highly recommend checking out YouTube and just search Pith Possum or Schnookums and Meat, and you'll find some great stuff to watch for sure. And here's actually some of my latest ones I've done pencils for, and this is Scooby and Shag from one of the more polarizing versions of Scooby-Doo. A lot of people don't like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, but it has really grown on me. And I've already drawn Misty Swiss and Carla, who's actually villain 72 in my series, and that's from this show. So now we have Scooby and Shag. I also want to draw the Mystery Machine, their robot butler, the main villain. I'll be drawing more from this show, let's put it that way. And here's the last piece of unfinished pencils that I have, and it's Rick from Shirt Tales. Shirt Tales was one of my favorite superhero cartoons as a kid, and I will be definitely drawing all the Shirt Tales, but we're going to start off with Rick, and I think he came out pretty good. So I'm actually glad to have some unfinished art, because that half-finished process keeps my art machine going. I have these things that I can just finish instead of having to start something new, because I've been having a little bit of trouble getting art made, and that's for a variety of reasons. So I haven't made a ton of art this year, but what I have made, I think, came out pretty good. And so I have to be happy with what I've done. And I don't want to put too much pressure on myself for numbers to just say, well, I want to make more. I just want to keep making this quality of art from these kind of shows, and I'll be happy with that. So we'll see how the year turns out. But that was my year in art for 2017. I hope you found this cool. So stay tuned for more from this year. Hopefully coming soon. And until then, take her easy.